Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's your guy Cold Fire, and today I am going to be reacting to the second part of the Patsy Cline documentary called When Patsy Cline Was Crazy. But if you've seen the first part, you see that we had left off just right after she had ended her 4-star record deal and signed on with Decca Records. This is where it all starts coming together for Patsy. So without further ado, we are going to listen to the rest of this documentary to give you a better feel of Patsy Cline and what she went through.
Patsy was one of the first ones to really start mining the great songwriters in Nashville. Guys like Hank Cochran, Willie Nelson, Harlan Howard.
Hank Cochran and I wrote a song called I Fall to Pieces for Patsy. Hank and I took it to Owen Bradley.
Owen thought it was a hit, but Patsy didn't like it. We got to know each other by then, and I was saying she ought to cut it, that I thought it was a hit, and we more or less, all of us, I guess, talked her into cutting it.
When she came in to record, we now were able to record anything that we felt was a good song. So that's what we started doing. And we didn't have this, we had our own stack now. We didn't have anybody to blame it on.
She sang the hell out of anything that she had her hands on. And to me, that is a very, very hard thing to do. To make people think that you wrote that song, that's a Patsy Cline song. It's not a Hank Cochran song. And that is the mark of an artist.
Yes, it is.
Baby Julie was a year and a half old now, and Randy Hughes was doing his job. With a couple of hits under her belt, Patsy took to the road again that spring with a vengeance.
A couple of hits meant that she got to be kind of lower middle class, and she was excited about that. To her, it felt like she was living a creative life and getting some stability from that. It was best of both worlds.
But her ascent is abruptly cut short. Patsy is in a car accident and spends a month in the hospital recovering.
The car wreck for most anyone else would have been a career ender. She could have died. She had terrible scarring. She had chronic pain after that, and that would have been the point at which most people would have said, okay, I've had enough.
After the accident, she came into my office and she really looked a little rough because it had been a tough accident. She'd had an injury somewhere around her forehead.
Steadfast, determined, and still on crutches, she appears on the Opry stage to reassure her fans.
The good part was that she had a hit, and it was really going great. And she came in and stuck her head in the door and said, I don't ever want to record again. She said, I just want to enjoy this one for the rest of my life. And that's when she told me that she only did that song because I liked it.
By September 8th, Patsy turns 29, has 2 kids, and Charlie has quit his day job to support their musical career.
Charlie had to kind of be the stay-at-home dad. That was pretty unique at that time. I don't think people did that.
If she had a recording session, then usually I stayed home with them at night. Because of the 26-week commitment, we had to be at the Opry. So we maybe go out to eat occasionally, but then we'd go to the Opry and maybe walk across the alley to Tootsie's between shows. So our social life became probably the Grand Ole Opry and Tootsie's.
Crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy, crazy for feeling so blue.
Talk about how an artist can make a song their own. When you hear Willie's version and you hear her version, she just had a way of taking a song and just putting a whole new spin on it.
I'm crazy for trying, crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you.
It'd be cool to see Willie and Patsy get to sing their song together.
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I am crazy, crazy for feeling so blue.
The fact that this song still to this day resonates with so many people, it's insane, really, to think that a song lives on for so long. Singing for the president at the White House was one of the scariest moments of my life. That was one of my first official televised performances ever. And to have to sing Patsy Cline's song was like that much more nerve-wracking.
It all has to do with emotion and really being able to embody that, no matter if you can hit a high note or if you sound like, crap. If I believe you, that's what it's all about. And she was incredibly believable.
I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. Crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving
Letter after letter after letter, you hear about her, coming off the road and having played all these shows for fans and then walking into the house and having to hurry and fix dinner or hurry and attend to all of these domestic duties. She certainly didn't have people doing that kind of stuff for her.
We didn't know anything about tour buses or nannies on the road or entourages and all this stuff.
You made me love.
1962 was a big year, touring, charting, and multiple awards. She dethrones Kitty Wells for the second year in a row, started out with the #1 hit and released her third album. Crazy flew to the top of the charts. They get a check from Decca for $22,000 and put a down payment on their dream house. A rare gig for country acts, she performs with Johnny Cash at the Hollywood Bowl. Radio DJs are playing her music, and as the year comes to an end, Randy Hughes has her booked into the Mint Casino in Las Vegas for an unprecedented 35 nights and a good salary.
I used to work at the Golden Nugget quite a bit back in those years, and Patsy was working a place directly across the street called the Mint. Oh, it was hard. We used to have to do 6 shows a day, 45 minutes on and 15-minute break and right back on. And I'd run across the street, jumping across cab hoods and running in front of scenic buses, trying to get over there to hear a song or two from Patsy during my break.
True to her nature, when a DJ friend died unexpectedly, Patsy reworked her schedule so she could perform in a benefit concert to help his family.
I know when Patsy had the car accident, the people in our neighborhood had went out and took up money for us to help us because we were down on our butts. And I mean, she had always been like that, but I think that made her remember more that you always help your fellow man, and I think that's why she was glad to go out and do that.
There was bad weather, and it rained even on the day we were doing the show, but There was a great big crowd, and we did 2 shows. Anyway, the last thing that I said to Patsy was, I'm really going to be worried about you flying in this weather. She said, don't worry about me, Hoss. When it's my time to go, it's my time.
After waiting for storms to pass, Patsy's plane takes off from Dyersburg, Tennessee, to get her home to her family in Nashville.
There was bad weather between here and there, but we didn't know. And then as the time went on, we knew they had to be either on the ground or they had problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, in all my 30 years on radio, this is the hardest job I have ever had to do. And it pains me greatly to announce that Patsy Cline, Hawkshaw Hawkins, Cowboy Copas, and Randy Hughes, flying from Kansas City to Nashville, have crashed in the area of Camden, Tennessee after an all-night search involving bad weather, violent weather. The plane has finally been located and all aboard have perished.
And I didn't find out anything for sure until I recalled the radio. Nobody ever called me and said that they'd found the plane or the plane was down. I think I'd gone in and laid across the bed with the kids because I'd been up all night and was laying there about half dozing, and Grant or T. Tommy or somebody came on the air and said that they found the plane and no survivors.
Sad, absolutely.
Patsy's tragic passing left an indelible void felt through her cherished Opry stage and the studio where the magic was made. A month after her death, Sweet Dreams is released, leaving her fans longing for what might have been.
Dreams of you.
After the session, we played all the album back, and Patsy was very proud of him, and that's really the last time that I saw her.
Why can't I forget you and start my life anew?
Sweet Dreams is a song that I recorded because I was such a huge fan of Patsy Cline, and I would end the show with that, a cappella.
You don't love me, it's plain.
She brought a dignity to a woman's feelings. You know, I think that the way that she sang with such feeling and with such dignity allowed any woman to feel, you know what, I am important. My feelings do count. It's just that type of song, the first time you hear it, it just touches your heart. And probably everybody's been in that situation one time or another in their life.
Why can't I forget the past? Start loving someone new instead of having sweet dreams about you.
Charlie and Julie would accept Patsy's awards for the new album, but as time moves on, the hits fade. Charlie remarries and builds a family.
We were pretty normal. There wasn't anything special about us growing up and knowing that your mom was an icon. I honestly went to a 10-year high school reunion and had people tell me that they never knew that my mom was a singer. Not just my stepmom. They never knew that my mother was Patsy Cline.
It's not a given that an artist and their music will be canonized, will be remembered. Many more artists are forgotten than are remembered.
Now there's no more baby.
She was the first solo female artist inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1973. So that says something about how important she was.
Patsy Cline, the character, really mattered in the Loretta Lynn biopic, Coal Miner's Daughter.
Overnight
One way I figured out who she was by listening to her sing. I'm sure that she had some sense of what she achieved before she died, and I didn't get any impression that she was dissatisfied or frustrated by her career.
I was only 4.5 when she died. My brother was only 2. When Coal Miner's Daughter came out, it brought Mom back into the world, back to the attention of a lot of people. And it did kind of change things.
5 years after Coal Miner's Daughter, Hollywood put its spin on Patsy and Charlie's love story.
I mean, since I've been about 11 or 12 years old, I've had my life mapped out. I haven't pushed too hard these last 4 or 5 years, but I'm going to start next year.
I'm starting next year, too.
To me, she symbolized a woman who was not a victim. She symbolized a woman who could speak for herself and tell you how she felt with all her dignity intact. And that's not a victim. Even if horrible things happen to her.
Hello, Patsy.
Hi, Miss Bradley.
What's frowned for, honey? Randy telling me you've been worrying again. Don't ever frown. You make yourself old before your time.
I know, but I wanted to
No,
talk to you
now
about
listen to
something.
me. Everything's all right.
We had a very cordial relationship, and it was not necessarily like the movie.
You want to start on the living room?
I had the privilege, I think, of seeing Patsy soften, because I did see kind of the harder side with some rough edges, but then the last time I saw her was different. I wish very much I could have known her better. I think I'd have had a good girlfriend.
Time and revisionist history has created the myth of Patsy Cline that really overshadows her achievements, because the myth was that she was this international icon rolling in money, that everything came easy. And the reality was driving in places many, many hours in cars, changing in back seats. The actual Patsy Cline is far more impressive than the mythical Patsy Cline.
Crazy. I'm crazy.
One of the things that came about was a play, and it was a play called Always Patsy Cline. The good thing about it was taken from actual events of one person Mom had met on the road, one friend she had made.
Patsy had played one night at a big honky-tonk called the Esquire Ballroom. And then with a little more research, I found an interview with a lady named Louise Seeger. Patsy spent the night with Louise. Louise drove her to the airport, and they became pen pals.
Got to meet her. She came to the show early on, and me and Terry Myers, who portrayed Louise, we went out and partied with her several times, and you could see how Patsy would have liked her and why she went home with her that night, and they had bacon and eggs and talked all night. Totally made sense.
This show has been one of the most produced musicals in America. I think her music, it just stands up today.
Come on in, settle right down, make yourself at home.
It's actually a good example of what Mom was like with her fans, because that's not the only story of Mom meeting a fan and then having a friendship that lasts.
Long after she died, Patsy's accomplishments continue to penetrate pop culture.
Down by the riverside, down by the river.
Not only was her career over at such a young age, even within her career, she took big hiatuses. Got married and had kids and took a break and then came back. She had an accident, came back.
When
like with her fans, because that's not the only story of Mom meeting a fan and then having a friendship that lasts.
Long after she died, Patsy's accomplishments continue to penetrate pop culture.
You know what I was going to point out here is the achievements that kept rolling in for Patsy Cline long after her death. Like in 1992, the Postal Service issues a stamp. I still have mine sealed, never opened. In 1995, she wins a Grammy for a Lifetime Achievement Award by Barbra Streisand and Peggy Lee. In 1997, Crazy is the #1 jukebox hit of all time. And then in 1999, she gets a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It says number 11 on VH1's. Yeah, number 11 on VH1's Greatest Women in Rock and Roll. That was rock, pop, country, and all. Down by the river.
Not only
in 2002, CMT votes Patsy #1 female country artist of all time.
was her career over at such a young.
And right here it says in 2005, Guinness lists Patsy's greatest hits as the longest charting album by a female artist. In 2006, Greatest Hits album exceeds 10 million copies and is certified diamond by the RIAA. Total album sales exceed 20 million.
Age. Even within her career, she took big hiatuses. Got married and had kids and took a break and then came back. She had an accident, came back.
When one goes to evaluate the value of a song catalog, they look at what they consider primarily the standards, the songs that are considered songs for all time. Patsy created a dozen songs for all time. They became standards. They became evergreens.
People might not know just what a complex person and artist she was, because she was navigating all of these things that weren't laid out before her. She was having to figure it out, and did in fact figure it out.
Especially a young girl coming up in a really tough industry and having her own sound, her own look, her own voice that was different than anybody else.
Maybe she just wasn't done yet. And was, her music is very influential in its sound, and her voice was very distinctive. It is kind of fascinating, though, that some people's music, talented, as they can be, gets kind of left with that generation, and then some gets carried on.
50, 60 years after these songs were hit, national brands still come to us to license songs like Crazy and I Fall to Pieces or Sweet Dreams. American advertisers and brands understand the value of Patsy Cline's music.
Patsy was always a scrapper. I think she had to get out there and just really fight for everything that she had. So that's all she knew, was just to get it done.
The combination of the way that she was raised, how she became successful, the tragic nature of her death, the way that she conducted her life, which is very much, very American, can-do, individualistic.
My God, she sings like an angel and she looks like one. And she did close the show because she was the star.
If she'd never had a hit record and never got to the Grand Ole Opry or Carnegie Hall or any place you can name, she would still been singing somewhere.
And boy, you'll never know what it meant to this old gal to know that there was that many people left on this good old earth that still think of me once in a while, and I sincerely appreciate it.
And there you have it. That was the Patsy Cline documentary, one of the latest ones. You can always check out the copy if you want your own personal one. They have it on eBay. They have it on Amazon, I think. You can buy it from the Patsy Cline Museum. But I just thought this was an incredible documentary because it showed a lot of stuff in it, and you heard a lot of them, especially a lot of the female country singers, say that, yes, she was rough and tough. You probably wouldn't want... She seems like the type of person that you could sit down and have a drink with, but at the same time, she'd go out into the parking lot and kick your ass if you crossed her. And that was because of the nature that she had to grow up in. Believe it or not, there's a movie called Patsy and Loretta, and it's very hard to find. It was on Lifetime. And the reason why she had such a tough exterior was she carried around a lot of pain, because right before Patsy's mom left their dad, Hilda, her mother, found out that the father, Patsy Cline's father, was sexually, molesting her at the age of 14. And so that's why she picked up in the middle of the night and left behind him. But they didn't want to say that in here, I guess. They wanted to keep it a little clean. But all the books and the interviews and everything, because the movie is directed by Patsy Cline's daughter, Julie, and Loretta Lynn's daughter, Patsy. Odd, right? But they tell the story truthful about all the truthful events that Loretta Lynn gave them account of, because they didn't put nothing in the movie that was hearsay or whatever. So when I found out about that, I'm like, wow, that's just sick. That's just crazy that, he married Patsy's mother when she was only 15, and then I guess he liked him a little bit too young. And whenever she found out that he was molesting Patsy, she said enough's enough and got him out of there. Good for you. That's what a good mother does. But I think that in taking small consolation, I believe that that is what gave Patsy Cline the drive to not let any other man or woman, but especially a man's, because country music was a male-dominated field, tell her what she could and could not do. You saw in the part on there where she was reprimanded for wearing pants on the Opry. You wouldn't think of that today as being like, what was so wrong with it? You just didn't do that back then. And she broke down barriers for women to come along and do stuff like that. She broke down the barrier of, we don't get out there and sing until you pay us first. It was no pay, no climb. That was her motto that she lived by. And because a lot of people get cheated out of their money before they go out there and perform a few songs or something at these venues, and then they come back and then the person that owned the place didn't have the money or refused to pay them. Made up some excuse, whatever. But she came up with that. That was even coined by Johnny Cash. He said he remembers that she would always go out there, and they were at a show one time, and Johnny asked her, he's like, well, who's going to go tell them if that we're not going to play because we're not going to get paid for this? She's like, I will. I'll go out there and tell them. And she did. She went out there and told them. And to me, that goes to show you that, thinking that 30 being tragically taken from her life, that she had enough life to live. 30 is not that old. Most people don't even, even begin to realize what they have at 30 years old. They don't even start to settle down at 30. They don't even, they're still going through the whims of life, trying to figure things out. And Patsy had it figured out since she was 15, that she wanted to be a singer. And it took her a while, but she got there. She may not have lasted a while, but her legacy will live on forever. And that, my dear friends, is the story of the late, great, iconic Patsy Cline. I hope that you enjoyed this 2-part series, and let me know what you think in the comments, and if you would like for me to react to anyone else on here. But for now, goodbye. I love you. Thanks for sticking with me. It's been a great job. Have a good one. Bye bye.